home's legal title is kept online, and thieves know it. They'll forge your signature on your home's title, and that's it. They legally own your home. Then they can take out loans on your home. Your bank doesn't cover you, and neither does your insurance. The only way I know to avoid this nightmare and possible eviction is with Home Title Lock. Go to HomeTitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're already a victim. And use code RADIO for 30 free days of protection to help you through this crisis. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. HomeTitleLock.com.
And now, a page from the diary of Flo.
Dear Diary, the ghost is back. This house is protected through progressive, but that doesn't mean it's not haunted. How else would you explain that radiator-like clanking sound? Or the moon-colored light in the hallway that's gone by morning? Maybe he never bundled home and auto, and he's doomed to suffer an eternity without his savings.
Save an average of 17% on car insurance when you bundle home and auto through Progressive.
What was that whistling sound? Oh, right, the wind.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company inflates discounts not available in all states or situations.
Tiger King took America by storm, but there's more to this story. Nancy Grace goes inside the jaw-dropping series. It's a must-see investigation only on Fox Nation.
Our country has had to fight for its freedom so many times. We've been through so many challenges.
Today, our freedom is under siege from a virus that we all have the power to defeat. By staying home, practicing social distancing when at home,
And washing our hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds.
doing our things, supporting first responders, slow and jump.
Go to coronavirus.gov to find the latest information to keep you and your family safe.
All right, military police now searching for a missing soldier who was stationed at Fort Hood. She was last seen on Wednesday in the parking lot of her barracks in the Army post in Texas, of course. Keys to her car, along with her ID card and wallet, were found inside the armory where she was working earlier that day. Law enforcement in the area issuing a be on the lookout notice for the 20-year-old private. She is described as being 5'2", weighing 126 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. If you've seen anything, heard anything, please call authorities.
All right, we are a quick look at the Dow now, up 238 points to start off on a brand new week, Monday morning, 11:14 a.m. Eastern time, and you've got optimism about the reopening of some areas of the country this morning. That is a full 1% gain on the big board. As we do hear warnings, however, from the president's economic advisors that we are going to see numbers like we have not seen since the Great Depression when it comes to unemployment in this country and the hit that we will see to economic growth as a result of this pandemic. But that optimism is playing out in the stock market this morning with a 250-point gain. Optimism about reopening, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely, Sandra. And look, you referred to Kevin Hassett. He had left the White House as a top economic advisor. As he told us, I think it was last week in that interview, he was maybe overseas with his family and got the call, you got to come on back. And he wanted to serve his country. So he's now, once again, a senior advisor to the president. He's making these comments this morning, telling reporters that he's comparing it to the Great Depression. He's saying this is the biggest shock to our economy possibly in American history. And yet, as you say, you see the Dow up slightly today, some green territory there, in part because states are starting to reopen and there's sort of this cautious optimism right now. But everyone's watching it all very closely. The president doing that video conference this afternoon with governors to make sure things are falling into place.
Yeah. But as you know, Ed, and everybody watching those, the markets are forward-looking. So they're looking out to the future. For example, Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, saying that we could see an economic rebound in this country by end of summer. Whether or not we fully recover, he's predicting a rebound. What that looks like, whether it's V-shape and a quick snapback or U-shape, as most economists are predicting, any sort of comeback right now is what that market is cheering on.
Yeah, and look, Chris Hartwell was talking about it as well real quick a moment ago when we had Kayleigh McEnany on. This is the way the president is going to frame it as we head into the election season, which is that he built the greatest economy the world has ever seen. It's been brought down, and he's the one to build it back. So that's the case the White House will be making.
And by the way, you think about how much the Dow's come back since the worst moments of this pandemic, below 20,000, below 19,000. It's now back to 24,000 this morning. All right, Ed, thank you. We'll be right back to you. Meanwhile, various businesses in Texas will be starting to reopen, as we were discussing, as the state relaxes some of those COVID-19 restrictions. Governor Greg Abbott expected to make that announcement at a briefing this afternoon, but some protesters are still saying that he's not opening the state fast enough. Casey Stiegel is following it all live from Arlington this morning. Hey, Casey.
Hey, Sandra. Yeah, there have really been mixed feelings, frankly, across the state of Texas, not only from business owners, but then, of course, employees, people who are ready to get back to work, and they've argued that the state isn't doing a good job in order to make it happen fast enough. Now, if you remember, retail stores were able to open in some capacity last week, and that's this retail on the go sort of format where people purchase things online and then they go to the store to physically pick them up. Some are at least happy to be open, even if there are limitations. Other Texans have been critical of the governor's timeline, saying it's taking too long. Protests were held again over the weekend at the state capitol in Austin. And I'm sorry. Sorry, we seem to have a little bit of technical problems. You know how this is working from home, Sandra. A Dallas salon owner, however, was trying to open up her business over the weekend, even though salons are not part of the businesses that can be open. Listen to what she had to say after she was cited.
Everything's been vague because they're all looking at each other saying, what do we do? Because this is unprecedented. And if they want to lock those doors, I'll put chairs out here and my stylist can work on the patio gladly.
Right here. Meantime, this week marks the first restrictions starting to be lifted over in Louisiana. Elective surgeries resume today in that state. The governor says that is an important step since a large portion of the population have chronic conditions that have to be addressed. Meantime, back here in Texas, as we told you, despite the protest at the governor's at the Capitol and the like down there in Austin, officials say that the governor will be holding this press conference later today, where we will get a better sense of the next phase of restrictions that will be lifted here in the Lone Star State. Sandra?
Okay, Casey Stiegel, thank you for that. And as scientists around the world race to find a vaccine for COVID-19, some are considering a controversial method to speed up the process. One headline from ABC News reading, quote, injecting healthy adults with live coronavirus provides moral dilemma and faster path to vaccine. Joining us now is Dr. Jeanette Neshwat. She is a family and emergency medicine physician and a Fox News medical contributor. Dr. Neshwat, always good to see you. Thanks for being here this morning. We have a lot of questions. One, on injecting healthy people with the vaccine to find a vaccine. Obviously, this piece was pointing out the moral dilemma with doing that, but you've got healthy people all over saying, or if they tested positive for the antibody, saying, use me to help find a vaccine so we can get out of this.
Well, that's great that we have lots of volunteers, but we have to remember, Sandra, that it takes about 10 to 15 years to get a vaccine on the market, and it costs millions of dollars. So we are moving at an extraordinarily fast pace to get it down into 1.5 years. We have to understand that vaccines have to go through trials, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. And 2 doctors, as reported in the Journal of Infectious Diseases, said, let's, instead of using the regular phase 3 trials, let's just use what's called a human challenge trial, meaning after we've checked for safety and effectiveness and dosaging, let's just inject it straight into patients. But the question is, we are knowingly asking volunteers to inject themselves with a deadly pathogen that could, potentially kill them. And on top of that, I am seeing so many patients, young patients, with heart disease, with strokes, with pulmonary embolisms, blood clots in their heart and their lungs. So there's definitely a risk. This is a bit of an ethical dilemma that we have to also take into consideration.
Very important. important developments there. This is the Wall Street Journal. Scott Gottlieb this morning. America needs to win the vaccine race, writing, quote, COVID-19 altered world history. It's now evident that public health is part of national security. A successful vaccine will allow Americans to reclaim the country's safety and sovereignty. The first country to reach this prize will be the first nation to recover. So to your point, the race is on to find that vaccine. By most estimates, we're still a year to 18 months out. I want to ask you also now about the talk of this possible new treatment. The active ingredient